Hi, I'm John, and welcome to Edgestone Studios. We interrupt this studio update to bring you something completely different. So, those of you who have been following me have picked up the hint that I'm a bit of a gamer. As in a bit of a gamer, meaning old school gamer going back to the 70s, going back to learning to play Dungeons and Dragons in grade 12, 1981 time frame, playing tons of board games, getting into miniature gaming. And, I've been role playing, I've been a GM, referee, dungeon master, whatever you want to call it, for decades. I primarily run games. Just like with fixing consoles or building studios, I like to initiate things and get things happening. So I like running games. And in the 90s, I found that Star Wars had a role-playing game system put out by West End Games. And I got heavily into it, and I met my buddy Robert through that game. And they made a series of miniatures and a game called the Star Wars Miniatures Battles. And the two of us started playing that as a thing to do. And when Robert moved to Vancouver, we found out there was a miniature convention called Trumpeter Salute that runs every March in Vancouver. It had been going on since the 50s or 60s. And it was basically historical war gaming, reenactments of Civil Wars or World War II or War of Independence. I guess that's Civil War. Whatever. It was historical stuff. And we were thinking, well, let's go hang out at this convention, bring our crappy Star Wars terrain and stuff that we barely had, and play some games, and we'll host some games, but nobody will play with us because, it's just, we'll just hang out. Well, it turned out to be a lot of fun. We'd go year after year, and then my buddies Brooke and Mark started showing up. My friend Dave moved to Vancouver, so he started showing up, and my son had come along. My other two kids had come along one year. So this became an annual thing. And over the years, of course, Robert and I tried to step up our game amongst all these other longtime veteran gamers. And we started building better and better terrain. The next year, Robert decided to make an Ewok village, which took over 1,000 stir sticks that we got from Stir Stick Supplies Company. So we called it the 1,000 Plank Village. And again, another big hit. And then it just continued. So I ended up making something that was a lighted lava board. We called it Lavaland, but it was basically supposed to be Mustafar. It was around the time the prequels were coming out. I won a best of session for that. Everybody who saw it thought I should have won best of show because they thought it was so amazing. I only have low quality images of that. When I'd won that best of session, I picked up a Western miniatures game called Legends of the Old West by the same people who make Warhammer, but it was a completely different system. And then I started building Western terrain and painting Western miniatures. And later I got into a Call to Arms Starfleet, which was a Star Trek, classic Star Trek based game based on Starfleet battles. And eventually culminated in All Quiet on the Martian Front, which was the second coming of the Martians from H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And one of the years, back in 2007, Brooke suggested, why don't we come over to your place one time and just play games with you at your house in Victoria from Vancouver? And Robert jokingly said, sure, we could call it JonCon and have our own little convention. And so we joked about it, and we set that up, and I believe there was 6 or 7 of us. And we had the first JonCon, and I'd made a little video on our cheesy old webcam as a preview that it was coming, and made sort of little fake little name tags for when you come in the door. And we played games all weekend. We had a blast, and we talked about, let's just do this annually. Well, one of the things that happened over the year was people were complaining that there was no merchandise. So I made a shirt, this shirt here, of my face on a shirt for JonCon and gave them each one of these shirts. And one of the things that had happened during the first JonCon was we had a big discussion about what a gathering of geeks is called. So if you've got a murder of crows or a herd of cows, what do you call a bunch of geeks? And we got down to 2. we said it was either an awkward of geeks or a shunned of geeks. And we were split about 50-50, but I decided that for that year, we were going to be shunned. So every year, my friends would come to my house for a weekend. We'd play games all weekend, and bit by bit, it grew to the point where I think in 2012 or 13, we had about 27 people on the Saturday night. It was definitely a happening event every year. Lots of gaming, board games, miniature games. And every year there was new merchandise. So we went through a variety of t-shirts. We introduced mugs eventually because people were tired of only t-shirts. Sometimes they sell mugs or t-shirts. Every year was a different theme. They didn't necessarily relate to anything in particular. But as the years went on, we moved to Cowichan, and I decided to have the last JonCon. We called it Terminated. So after 10 years of JonConning every year in November, we decided to call an end. But my plan had been to bring it back a couple of years later. I just wanted a little break, bring it back in 2020, and of course that didn't happen. But once the pandemic started clearing up, JonCon was resurrected. And so now we continue to have it year after year. And last year I decided that the theme would be Shattered. And that was right before I found out about my Parkinson's diagnosis. So it fit very well. So this year, we're getting ready for gaming starting tomorrow. The theme is digitized. My feature game this year is the post-apocalyptic miniature game Gaslands. I've been painting up Hot Wheels cars for it, modding them all week. And this is a really fun game to get into miniatures with because all you need is Hot Wheels cars, some dice, bit of terrain, and the rule book, and you can play out post-apocalyptic racing, death racing, etc. So that's what's going on in the studio this week, but not in the studio. It's going to be in the rest of the house. Probably about 17 people at the max this year. Multiple games. We're doing some pod racing. We're doing Gaslands. We're playing some role-playing. Got this new game that we picked up or found out about at JonCon called The Perfect Wave, which is a surfing board game. And a variety of other things that people will bring along. We'll have a big dinner on Saturday night. And then next week, I will spend a day or two recovering and then get back to music. So studio update, Interupted by JonCon, as it will be every November. Thanks for watching. Oh, if you want JonCon merchandise, I have a TeePublic store. I'll put a link in the description. I can't understand why you would want JonCon merchandise, but maybe you think they look cool or something. But yeah, I'll throw that in there just because I think it's hilarious. We only use it for ourselves. So, okay, see you next time.